Hi Ram, thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to jump straight in and ask you about what you have found resolution from in your life and what method you used to get there.
Okay. Um, yeah, so the challenge I had, and still I am working on, is my addiction. And for lack of words, I call it pornography addiction, but it's something like that. Um, so yeah, it's been from my college days, and recently I have started observing a lot of changes in me, like around last 2 years. And it's not one single method exactly, but it's a combination of different methods. And the one that I'm doing very recently is compassionate inquiry, which is developed by Dr. Gabor Mate and Raam. Um, yes, and also uh, other methods are using non-violent communication, which I like to call it as compassionate communication, and emotional freedom tapping, and also other simple things like journaling, and then connecting with friends, taking therapies whenever needed, so like that. Yeah.
Wonderful. I really like that's a good broad scope.
Yeah.
Can I ask what was happening in your life at the time during college when the difficulties first arose?
Yeah. Um, Actually, at that time it was okay because uh, it's so common, and even if people don't talk about it outside, but I see it's so common. So I didn't see it much as a challenge. But even when I started working, it was coming, and it was um, mainly it was affecting my time, and which can be used for other stuff, which was like productive time, and my sleep, and my body, and then my emotions. So and obviously it was affecting many other aspects of life also, which I was not aware, which I was slowly becoming aware. Like for example, the self-esteem I had, because there was a lot of shame associated with that, and that was nearly affecting every aspect of my life. Even when I talk to someone, then this less self-esteem due to the shame, or because I'm having this addiction, so that influences the way that I talk with the person. So yeah, these are the challenges I was facing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And with the various different methods you found the combination to be helpful,
Yeah.
how did you come about all of these different methods with the EFT and the compassionate inquiry?
Yeah.
And how did they arrive in your life?
So I feel uh, how did that arrive? Because of some blessing, maybe. I got in touch with right people and right resources at times. And for example, Dr. Gabor Mate's documentary on the named "The Wisdom of Trauma," and then a very little work of David Kessler, who is a grief educator, and then also I took some therapies where I learned about emotional freedom tapping. Um, so yeah, and then things one by one started happening. I was understanding about the people pleasing habits in me, and then um, I think certain words were actually influencing me a lot, which naturally led me to the right techniques. For example, um, feel the pain to heal the pain. I think it's David Kessler's words. And and from the same person, I think the other quote I remember very deeply is, the way out of pain is through the pain. And then the other influencing word from Dr. Gabor Mate is, um, I do not know exactly, do not remember exactly, but it's behind every addiction there is a pain, and to work on that pain is the appropriate method, and not to work on the addiction, because addiction is more like a symptom. So then when I get to know all these things, I was naturally going to the resources which was helping me to live these words, or like work on this approach.
That's really well worded. Would you feel comfortable explaining what you became aware your pain was? What was the trigger for the symptom?
I think um, the whole world and whole life is loaded with a lot of pain.
Totally.
Or at least that's how I see.
Yeah.
Because a pain doesn't mean some huge trauma that happened to me in the past or present. It's, of course, it was there for me. In my case, there was a trauma in the past, and there was a trauma in my relationship. But even a simple um, stress in work, in everyday life, is actually, I see it as a pain.
Yeah.
So it's a milder form of pain, but um, unless I become aware of that and start to find a way to work on it, handle that situation in a healthy way, what happens for me is I go to addiction. So that's a coping mechanism for me. So from morning to night, there are a number of situations which triggers me, which gives me stress, where I'm confused, where I have emotions. So unless I work on these things, like if there is an anger, how do I handle that anger? If there is a sadness, because I don't think my lifestyle was having a space for emotions, and even I was coming from a family where we were not uh, expressing our emotions clearly, and uh, so it's like just the same flat face for every emotion. So so yeah, every day there were a number of things, and now I take time. When there is sadness, I sit with the sadness. When there is an anger, I sit with anger. So I process that. So that's a huge thing that's happening, and then I come to a reality. I come to a realization that shame is the core aspect in my life, which was like uh, giving me a lot of troubles. Now I handle with that. So I see addiction as a part of me, and I'm not, my entire life is an addiction, and I don't associate the addiction with character, because I see that addiction is just a coping mechanism which was developed out of my control from my past experiences. And I would even say the whole world is like kind of giving constantly some things which lead me to the addiction. So yeah.
Totally. What was the first therapy or technique that you found, and how long ago was it?
um, Actually, initially around 3 years back, it was more of counseling that
Gotcha.
was giving me some ground preparation, I would say. So even that, I see how in life it worked for me. Is first was like a counseling, and then there was a, a set of therapy like which was using EFT, and then I come to compassionate inquiry, which I feel, even though it's in some way, I would say it's slightly intense, because it touches the core memories, core emotions. So I see it's like level 1, level 2, level 3, like a game I was being prepared.
Yeah.
Because directly compassionate inquiry, I don't know how it would have worked for me, and but I'm sure that now the ground level, the level 1 counseling is not sufficient for me, because I see that whatever help it can provide, it has given, but after some point I needed something more which can touch the real issue in a very direct way.
Thank you. Really well worded. Often we have to make physical changes in life or emotional changes before we're ready to do something new. Was there anything in your life that had to change, either emotionally or physically or other, in order for you to almost be ready for the method?
Oh, okay. So maybe I can say my relationship breakup, because that was causing huge pain. So I was touching the core, and then I was looking for some method, And then when I get in touch with the compassionate inquiry, I mean, that's when only after my breakup, I was able to see the trauma in me and why things were happening. Uh, so even though my breakup was sad, I also see it as a blessing in disguise, you know. So that's when I got to go into this work, and even earlier I was doing inner work, but I wouldn't say it's more like a kindergarten level. So because of that breakup only, I was seeing all the emotions in me, sensitivity in me, and the addiction. So and my physical place also shifted. So that also helped me. I live in a community where people do all the kind of different inner work. I live in Oroville, India. So I feel that provides that environment. Probably if I was in a different city, maybe I know I needed even more a close knit community for this to work, because now the people who are around me are also talking about similar things. So it really gives that conducive environment for this work. So I feel that intensity is also there in this place.
Thank you for sharing, Ram. What do you feel you can do in your life now that you couldn't do before at the height of the addiction?
Um, See, earlier I was not even aware of why this thing is happening, and then like what most people may do. I'm just guessing from the experience I have heard around my friends. I was also doing the same thing. I was trying to work on the addiction. Like I was remembering a simple thing, which I really see to be a funny thing now. I used to keep my laptop at my friend's place as a way of dealing the addiction. But now I see those methods will not work. So now I see what is the pain. Okay, now there is an anger, there is a sadness, and there is anxiety, there is stress, and then I find it difficult to be my authentic self because I was a people pleaser for a long time, and then I'm not able to accept imperfect things because I was a perfectionist and I am a perfectionist even now, but I'm getting okay with being imperfect, because I see perfection again. If I go why I was a perfectionist, of course half of that was natural, but half of this that was also more like a coping mechanism, because only then I will find a value in myself, only then people will value me. So it's all about that the childhood trauma that has created. So now I'm slowly becoming aware of it, and working on it. I'm bringing in more of self acceptance and self compassion. So the core values that I want to live, practice, and also like share it with other people are self compassion and self acceptance.
Is that the compassionate inquiry that's taught you about the self acceptance?
uh, no, compassionate inquiry is an important part of my life, but there were also other things which were helping me to come to this space. So I feel even before compassionate inquiry, this aspect of self acceptance and self compassion was coming in my life. So, yeah.
If we can draw on the specifically the work on self acceptance, the work in compassionate inquiry, and perhaps EFTT if you feel it's relevant, why do you feel that these methods work in your case?
See, the aspect of compassionate inquiry is actually, the name itself is so beautiful, because first component is that compassion and the second component is inquiry. Because um, the main challenge in my life was I had a deep spiritual inclination, so I just wanted to transcend things immediately. But on the other hand, I was like being pulled by this habit, and this is just one habit. There are a lot of other things. So there is a huge gap between this, and there is a tiff constantly happening, and it really feels like there were two individuals who were living inside, and there was constantly war every day, because every day it doesn't want to use that, and then it goes and use, and then so much of guilt and shame, waking up late in the next day and then thinking I shouldn't have done. So, and there is a lot of self-criticism because of the perfectionist attitude and because of the huge aspiration for the spirituality, the spiritual aspects of my life. So um, so even before I could hear judgments from people around me regarding my addiction, I was having it by myself for a long time, for more than a decade. So I was judging myself. Now that's where the word inquiry comes, because inquiry is really approaching with curiosity. Now, okay, like I got blew away when I first started knowing certain things in compassionate inquiry. For example, okay, there is an addiction. Now, what is the helpful aspect of that addiction? It is doing some help to you. Only because of that, this is living in your system. So this question was like surprising me. What, addiction is doing some help? Then I see, yeah, every day and night, what it was doing, it was comforting me a lot. Of course, it has the other unhealthy aspects, but what it was doing is that a cushion where I can just go and jump out of all the tiredness and stress and everything, and all the past aspects. So then it becomes easier for me to work. And then I see every addiction or every pain in me goes to some emotion or a belief or a perception. So now, how do I work on these things? So I need a tool, I need an approach, and one is the compassionate inquiry. And in compassionate inquiry, I get to know what is the emotion, what is the memory, and what is the belief. Now, I need to develop the resilience, and I'm developing already resilience to face emotions, and obviously connecting with the body. That's important part. It's very similar to what I learned from Vipassana, to feel that emotion in that body. And then, but important aspect is rewiring the brain, uh, because there's a limiting belief, which is the reason for all these things. Now, for the rewiring, what I find it to be effective is EFT, because I'm really touching those points and telling myself, it's more like an affirmation. I'm telling myself very, very much. Uh, it's really touching the depth, and also it's about the repetition. So that's why I find EFT as a helpful tool for me.
Earlier, we were talking about body symptoms that you became aware
Ah.
of during your healing journey. Could you talk on what you noticed and when it went away?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I remember three things. One is uh, when my breakup was in a very intense period. When I started seeing, okay, something really intense is happening, is when I started uh, noticing some stuff in my throat. And then it actually went to an extent where I was even finding it difficult to swallow food. Um, so then I got to see that, okay, I'm not expressing, I'm not communicating, um, because it was, even though the breakup was clear, I was not able to explain what is happening in me, why I want to do this, all these things. So there was not a space for that to communicate. um, and then the other thing that I have noticed is, during my when I was in that relationship, my lips were getting dried very unusually. It happens in the winter, but actually it just comes for a few days and then goes. But it was persisting for around 2 years, and it goes to the extent of getting cracks, um, and then sometimes even blood comes out. But after some time, I started noticing that the lip drying issue has completely gone away, and then the throat was relaxing, but it was really slow. And even sometimes now also throat comes, because for me it's about the people pleasing habit where I don't express what is inside me authentically, because I want to create comfort for other people so that I gain that attachment, I gain that, maintain that relationship like that. So one significant thing that happens for me repeatedly even now is the throat. But now what I do is I sit with that, and then I see, okay, whatever I have to express, I have to express in a gentle way, but really authentically expressing what's inside me and not keeping it within me. And then other thing that happened, which is not connected with my relationship, is um, like there was a huge pain in my upper back between the shoulder, what is the shoulder blades between the shoulder. So it's really inaccessible. Even when I do the physical workouts, it was not accessible. But during one of the therapy sessions, we touched a memory, and when that memory was coming, it's more like as if someone is really holding me on this back. And then and it's also actually a combination. Was one is something, someone is holding me on my back, which is fear, the someone is fear, and then the other is also holding that stress, which is like making me like this. And then actually, even though compassionate inquiry is somatic based work, after the session immediately I did not feel it, but after a few weeks I realized that, oh, there was this pain in my upper back for so long time, for many months. Even during Vipassana it was not going, because 10 days I was sitting with that, but even then it was not going, because probably it was too intense that it needed such a long time for it to go. And then after that, like, it was just completely free. But again, like from 10 days back I'm noticing this pain again. However, how what I strongly believe is it's not the same pain. It's like I have uncovered or excavated one layer of pain, and this is the next layer of pain coming from depth to the surface. Now my work is to excavate this, give it an expression, and free myself from this. So maybe next layer can come. I don't know.
You've led directly into my next question, which was beautiful. For example, and certainly you're feeling the example now, you have an increase in your symptoms, in your addiction symptoms, or in your physical pain symptoms. There's a flare up. What do you do to address it?
Mostly I just sit in silence. Firstly, start noticing what's happening. So the compassionate inquiry, I can do it for myself also without a practitioner. That's a very beautiful thing. Um, but sometimes it's not easy. So first I sit with myself and feel it, because I that's the main important thing. Because why all the challenges were coming for me, because I was not feeling it. I was numb, and I didn't know how to feel it. So the self-awareness and feeling, these are the first two things. And sometimes I journal, and sometimes it's just about expressing certain thing in a communication, so I express it. And then yeah, sometimes I dance it out because the body is feeling heavy. And then sometimes I talk with friends. Just talking reduces. And sometimes I will work with a therapist, um, because even though I can work, uh, I see um some of the things happen because of the relational containers. What happened in my past in the relationships. So it's actually a container is needed. Sometimes it's difficult for me to create that container by myself, and in therapy setup, the practitioner can do it for me. So that's why I regularly take therapies. So and I'm still going through the 1 year training program, the professional compassionate inquiry training. And as a part of this also, because it can bring up all the memories and stuff, they strongly advise, and it's actually a part of the requirement of the course, to have a therapist and have at least 12 sessions in 1 year. So yeah.
So is...
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention another thing, which is tapping.
Yes.
So that's one important thing. Like even before coming for the interview, I just did a micro tapping, like just 3 minutes. So yeah, work of Nick Cartner, that tapping solutions app, that's of great help. Sometimes I can do it by myself, but sometimes mostly I take the help of the app, because they have a different script for different situations. So for anxiety, for fear, for anger, and yeah, they have a lot of stuff. So whatever is suitable for the occasion, that I take it and then I do it.
Is your practice a daily practice, or is it? How does your treatment for yourself work? Do you do something every day, or every other day, once a week?
Actually, very fortunately, I feel like very blessed, because it's not like my inner work and my career is different. Both are so closely intertwined. So I feel very fortunate to come to that space. Of course, all my education background is in engineering. Probably if I would have continued that, then it's like I have to take separate time to do all this work and everything. But for me, everything is intertwined. So, and then it depends. Not always I do it, and sometimes it's too overwhelming that I just shut myself off and then go and like watch some YouTube video, talk to a friend. So I don't really work on it in a healthy way, because sometimes it's tiring, sometimes it's too intense.
Absolutely.
But I do it with awareness now.
Yeah.
Not like the earlier times where I was not even aware of what's happening within me. Now I'm aware that this is too heavy for me to handle now. I'll not handle. So, yeah.
Great. I have one more question, and different people answer this different way, so there's no wrong answer. Why do you feel that the issue of addiction came to you in the first place?
So like I mentioned the words of Dr. Gabor, it's the pain. And I really like to see life in a positive aspect, but it's also a bitter truth that life and world is filled with a lot of things which are not bearable for me. So it's so obvious that I get an addiction, because let's say, for example, I want to do inner work, but now how do I want to do inner work? I want to learn a lot of things, which means like in one way I want to learn a lot of courses, want to take a lot of courses. Then you can observe that I use the word lot two or three times. Then I have a long to-do list. Now within the time I have, within the energy I have, within the financial resources I have, I'll not be able to do all this stuff. So my one of the core limiting beliefs I have is you are not enough. I'm not enough. So whenever I'm in this situation, this immediately comes up. Then how do I handle it? I need a coping mechanism, because my nervous system is not able to handle that I'm not enough. So I just naturally go to the addiction. So even though it's so nice that the world is filled with a lot of self-awareness courses and everything, even that is overwhelming. So there is a lot of stuff in this life to handle, and it's so fast moving. And and the comparison between people. So I feel life is filled with a lot of these things which are not bearable for me, and I see that I'm really sensitive, which I was not knowing earlier. And even Dr. Gabor says that the potentiality of sensitive people getting addiction is more actually than people who are not very sensitive. So so I like, it's like, if I can sum it up, every day there are some or other things which comes to me to uh, which is not bearable for me, and I need a coping mechanism to survive. So it's basically about that survival. So so I think that's the reason.
Fantastic. Ram, I don't have any more questions for you. Is there anything else you want to add?
Maybe I think I didn't one thing that I would like to add a little more is about my self-compassion practices, because I feel that's a very central thing that I want to practice and also share with other people. And the work I do is also facilitating spaces, um, whether it's regarding work or regarding addiction, because I hold two different spaces. One is regarding work, one is regarding the addiction. And um, it's like it appears like I'm just one being, but there are multiple parts within me, and some parts are very wise, and it holds a lot of light, but some parts are really not so. I need to hold that part. And I also now, since I work with people, I'm also seeing how there is a lot of lack of self-compassion, at least the world I am seeing with the people around me. And I know for sure for me, within me, a lot of self-compassion is needed. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share. I wish, and when I say about self-compassion, it doesn't mean, because self-compassion can be easily misunderstood as giving like selfish or self-obsession. It's not like that. uh, and I feel that if I can hold the difficult part with compassion, then I can connect with any individual on this earth with compassion. So basically, self compassion is actually a pathway to be compassionate with other people also. So it's not a selfishness actually. So and I feel I want to keep practicing the self compassion and keep sharing with people also. So yeah, that's the part I want to add.
Thank you, Raam.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting,
That was
giving me
wonderful.
this chance.